Okay, let's go back to Google Hangout. This time from television producer to filmmaker, documentary filmmaker, Academy Award nominated filmmaker. Lucy Walker is joining us. Thanks for being here, Lucy. Your film is Crashed Reel, which was the inspiration for a lot of tonight's show for our producers tonight. I want to see a little bit of your film before we have our discussion, but I would like you to help set up the clip, if you will. Can you tell us a little bit about Kevin Pierce, who we're going to see here as he returns to the mountain?
Kevin Pierce is an American snowboarder who was on track for a medal podium position at the 2010 Vancouver Winter Olympics and was locked in a wonderful rivalry with Shaun White, who went on to win gold. However, Kevin, just a month before the Olympics, in a trick that went very slightly wrong, landed on his head. Unfortunately, was wearing a helmet and came out of a coma with a severe traumatic brain injury and made a wonderful recovery. However, no sooner than he recovers, he wants to get back on the mountain, back doing the sport that he loves so much. And he is, in this clip, arguing with his family about wanting to do that.
Okay, well, you take the call, we'll take a look at the clip, and we'll meet back on the other side.
What a day. Why aren't you wearing this? Can you put this on already? You're making me nervous.
Your friends. We know that. Don't you? This is the best.
This is our baby.
Wow. I have thought for a long, long time that I'm in a dream and that one day I might wake up and this all might be over and it might just all be a bad, bad nightmare.
Feels like it'd be a miracle if my brain did heal back 100%. But there's been so many miracles. It's like, why would you not believe in that one?
I want to thank you guys for getting me back here and for making this possible. This is what we've been working on. This is better than anything I could have ever imagined.
Kevin Pierce is a miracle man.
Thumbs up. Like it.
Let's do this, boys.
I think the conversation needs to start with what your plans are about riding on snow.
How ready do you feel like you are to snowboard?
I feel 100% confident.
Not us.
Not you?
Not everybody.
Calling a spade, isn't it, Dave?
I just don't want it to die.
I don't want to die either, Dave.
I don't want it. I don't want you to die, that's one. And then number two is that I don't want you to be in a wheelchair. And that I don't want you to be paralyzed. Is that what you want?
That's not what I want. I think those are all things that I could have happen if I fall.
So from those clips, Lucy, we could see there a little bit, we saw an image there that showed us a little bit of what he went through. We also saw, though, obviously how badly he wanted to get back to the mountain. Were you surprised by how badly he wanted to get back to doing the sport that caused him so much damage?
No, I guess I wasn't. The interesting question, though, was what he was going to do, because the doctors told him that if he hits his head again even slightly, the consequences will be extremely severe. Once you have one severe traumatic brain injury, the second one can be catastrophic, can kill you. It's almost like a glass with a crack in it or something. Just a light little bit of pressure would be enough. Unfortunately, for horrible results with second impact syndrome. So the situation was a very difficult one, and many athletes do go back and do go on, unfortunately, to have further injuries that have exacerbated results. So it's difficult to dig deep and change tracks, right? It's difficult for any of us to come to grips with such a big curveball in life and sort of reinvent oneself, especially when you were so at the top of your sport and doing so well, and that you have a brain injury. I mean, he has a severe brain injury, and your brain isn't getting the information about how injured you are. And so he had a lot of dissonance around understanding, quite how injured he was. So it was a really important and interesting, not interesting, that sounds terrible, but it's a very important and complicated brain injury. And I must confess, I was quite ignorant to start out with about what a difficult injury it is for survivors and their families and carers and friends and loved ones and doctors, because it's not your brain and it's invisible. You don't look injured, and it's hard to tell where's the personality, where's the passion for snowboarding, whereas it could also be the bad judgment of a frontal lobe injury and impulsivity, and it's just very difficult to sort of figure out what's what. And so it was a real struggle for Kevin. I learned a lot about brain injuries and gosh, 1.7 million Americans a year sustain them, 400,000 vets coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan are struggling with them. So it was a real learning curve for me as well as for Kevin.
And Kevin says he does not want to see regulation or safety measures changing his sport. Were you surprised by that?
Oh, I wouldn't say that, actually. Kevin is adamant that people wear helmets, which is a change in the sport. Helmets are not mandatory in competition.
Right.
Kevin is passionate that athletes are insured, which amazingly as well is also not mandatory, and in fact is weirdly uncommon. And we started our Love Your Brain campaign, hashtag Love Your Brain, which we wanted to address some of these quite egregious gaps, and these athletes are really vulnerable. A lot of athletes feel like it may be cheaper to pay as they go, or feel quite invulnerable because they're young people. However, if you are risking paralysis, death, and severe traumatic brain injury, the medical cost of that can be so significant that we really want to make sure that athletes are getting enough support. And for example, even outpatient rehab is very important in their they need the right kind of insurance and so on. So I think Kevin's adamant about that. I mean, he doesn't blame the height of the half pipe, which is 22 feet tall, and a lot of people point to the height of the half pipe and say, is that too big, or should there be limits? Kevin's dad is of the view that there should be limits on the sport, a little bit like with Formula One motor racing, which had to be limit the size of the engines because drivers were being killed. And I don't know the answer. I'm a filmmaker and I love watching snowboarding, but I also, want the athletes to be protected while they're doing this thing that they feel so passionately about.
And part of that passion, do you think, comes from they're drawn to the danger? You named the film Crash Reel for a reason. Tell us why.
Well, we call it the crash reel because any filming company, there are lots of snowboarder and ski mountain film companies that do these exciting sort of tricks films where you see the beautiful mountains and the beautiful tricks. Or many athletes or contests will have what they call a crash reel, which is the gnarliest crashes all cut together. It looks very glamorous, and if you Google those crashes, they're insanely popular on YouTube. And the big question is, what actually happens to those athletes? It's obviously very compelling to watch those crashes, but the crash reel kind of shows us the real story of one big crash, and I think resensitizes us to what it actually entails for the athlete, which is a incredibly complicated lifelong recovery. And even in the best case scenario, I think Kevin, very fortunately, I don't want to give away the ending, but it's still such a good movie. I think we can, and you'll still enjoy the movie. But Kevin has the best case scenario.
And where can we see them? And where can we see the movie?
Yeah, the movie's coming out in December in theaters. It's also on HBO Go exclusively for a little bit right now, if you happen to have HBO. But it is coming out in theaters in December and will be available on DVD, VOD, streaming, that kind of stuff, iTunes, all that, starting in January. It's won lots of lovely film awards, like the South by Southwest Audience Award. It was the opening night film at Sundance. So we've had a really fun at festivals, and it's a very, very watchable movie. It's not one of those documentaries that's like going to the dentist.
Oh,
you
no.
know? It's really watchable, and the family.
And we
movie
look
is
forward
so
to
wonderful.
watching it ourselves. All right, Lucy Walker, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.